I work off the assumption that every service that we use has security leaks, right?
Yeah.
And that maybe goes back to what we talked about, control what you can control and be prepared for the things that you can't.
Yeah.
One of the things we do at Propagator is we don't hold data at all. We just transfer data between systems. There's a swamp of unhappiness, and I'm Shrek. So if I see a swamp, I jump right in.
Where could you take your business? Where could Propagator go in the long term?
We started with health because it's the hardest. Start with the hardest. Everything else becomes easy later. You have to have clarity. You have to have the event horizon, where you're going to. If I can see far and I know where I'm going, then I can control the speed because I know where I'm going. I don't need to stop. Speed without clarity is noise, right? Where are you going? What are you actually doing? You're just creating friction and sparks flying, but nothing actually happens. I think one of the things that really impressed me with Twitter is how committed everyone was to what they thought Twitter should be, which was like the town square of the internet. Well, we can talk for ages about did they implement it correctly, what were the safety mechanisms, etc., but they were all extremely committed to delivering, and that was great to see. In my non-existent investor deck, the first slide is, in 2 years, every health transaction will go through Propagator. Because that's what we want to do. We want to be there for every health transaction.
That's a pretty good first line on an investor deck.
I have no second slide.
One thing I'm curious to know, Nimo, is like when you went to Twitter, what was something that surprised you about working at that type of company?
I guess I can say that.
Welcome to the Startup Theatre podcast. This podcast is produced by Empire Films.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Startup Theatre Podcast. This is New Zealand's #1 podcast for startups. All things startup, all things founders, all things interesting stories. And we have a cracking interesting story for you today. Nimo Namani is not a name that is probably known by everyone in New Zealand, but it's one of those names that you should know and you're going to know in the future. I've known Nimo for a long time. He's a really successful founder. He's sold companies to famous New Zealand startups, which we're going to hear about today when I ask him. He sold a product to Twitter and actually went and worked at Twitter. And he's now building one of the biggest health tech integration platforms to make it really easy for the healthcare industry in Propagator. And so I'm really interested to chat to Nimo. He's a phenomenal guy. He's the atypical engineer, CTO, who's now found himself in the CEO role. And so I'm really curious to see how he's translated his skill set from being a CTO to big global tech companies to now being a CEO in a small startup. And I think that's something that we're all trying to navigate in startups, is that we find ourselves in positions where we have to wear a different hat and then figure that out. And so I'm really keen to double click on that and find out a little bit from Nimo. And so, yeah, I'm really excited about this podcast. I hope you strap in. I have to go and find Serge now because Serge is joining us. So I'm going to go off and find him. And once Serge comes back in, we'll have a little yarn. We'll do a spotlight startup and then we'll get into Nimo's podcast. And that brings us to one of our favorite segments on the podcast, which is where we shout out some really cool startups that we found here in New Zealand. We try and shine the light on them. And it seems to be one of the segments that the audience is really loving. We're seeing some phenomenal movement on the internet, shouting out these startups, and the posts that we push out and the clips that we put out are getting heaps and heaps of love. So much so that people are actually starting to send me things to get a little shout out on these podcasts. And look, you don't have to send me anything. All I'm doing is if I see something that I think is really cool or someone tells me about something that's really cool from New Zealand, we want to shout it out. And we want you all to help by spreading the word and sharing these posts or telling people about this cool startup that you heard on the podcast. And so we've got 3 more startups that we're going to shout out to you today. And the first one I want to talk to you about today is a product that I found online called Griefity. It's a product that I actually just stumbled across because I had a friend who had a loss in the family, and I just happened to, it was topical in my mind, and I saw it posted somewhere. I saw someone mention it, and I double clicked and looked into it. And it's such a cool app that is helping people deal with grief. And so I want to tell you a little bit about that one. So grief's heavy, as you know, it's confusing and it doesn't come with a map. I've lost loved ones. I've lost a daughter. I've lost I've lost family, friends. I've had people commit suicide, and I can tell you it's a hard thing. So Griefity brings support to your fingertips. It's an app full of guided pathways, reflection tools, journal prompts, and community support. So whether you've lost someone, a relationship, a pet, or you're grieving another kind of loss, you'll find tools that are tailored to help you through the waves at your own pace. Some parts are free, and you can upgrade to Griefity Plus for expert support and extra resources. And so you don't have to walk this alone. Visit griefity.com and start finding your way forward now. And I hope that if someone's going through something right now, you share this with them, because it's a product that I really thought is quite cool. And I think it's something that you're on your own a lot when you're dealing with grief and you're thinking about it. And so to get something like this that'll help you through it, it would have helped me when I lost my daughter. And so it's something that I feel quite passionate about. The next one is a company called Factor. Factor is in the energy space, and so if you're still pricing energy contracts by hand, that is so last decade. Factor, or Use Factor, brings a pricing engine made for modern energy forecasting, charge logic, and real-time models all baked in. It replaces spreadsheets, custom code, and costly vendor lock-in. You choose the imports, it delivers the pricing, scales across the sites, it handles EV tariffs, PPAs, battery optimization, and more. And so it brings speed, precision, and insight to your pricing all via an API. So visit usefactor.com and power your pricing intelligently. And so the last one that I want to shout is actually not a startup, but it's actually in an event. And it's an extra special event because yours truly is going to be speaking at that event. It's the FinTech Wellies meetup. It's the Secrets to Success and Failure. And so it's actually the very first FinTech meetup in Wellington by Creative HQ. And so it's a space for founders, investors, enthusiasts, and partners to connect, collaborate, and grow a thriving FinTech ecosystem here in the capital. And so their launch event features a panel discussion, which is Secrets to Success and Failures, where leading voices from our local FinTech scene will share real-world insights into what it takes to build and sometimes rebuild a successful startup. So you'll expect honest stories, practical lessons, and plenty of opportunities to like-minded people shaping the future of finance and technology. There's beverage, kai, and choreo from 5 p.m. The panel kicks off at 5:30. So come along. It's on November 18th at Creative HQ. It's hosted by Creative HQ and in collaboration with Octave. It's a really cool event. There's some really cool speakers there. There's some actual really amazing fintech founders. I'm coming along just to sort of talk about all the different fintechs that I've worked with over the years that have had success and failures from my point of view or of my lens. But it's a really great panel. It's a great initiative, and fintech is exploding. And so love to see you there. And so please do shout these startups and events out into the ecosystem. We love that we're sharing these. We love how this segment's taken off so much. And I'm really excited to now get in and chat to this guest. Today's guest is brought to you by Vanta. Whether you're starting or scaling your company's security program, demonstrating top-notch security practices and establishing trust is more important than ever. Vanta automates compliance for global frameworks like ISO 27001 and SOC 2, saving you time and money, helping you build customer trust. Over 8,000 global companies like Atlassian, Dovetail, Sharesies, and Flossy all use Vanta to manage risk and prove security in real time. I actually had dinner with the whole Vanta team, and I knew instantly that they would be the sponsor on the podcast. They just genuinely care about startups. And to make it go even one better, they've actually decided that my audience gets a special offer of $1,000 USD off from Vanta. All you have to do is go to vanta.com/startup theatre and enjoy your $1,000 USD off now. Yeah, so thanks for joining us, Nimo. We're here with Nimo Namani, and Serge has just joined us on the couch as well from wherever you've come from, Serge.
Yeah, what a privilege to share the couch with you, Nimo.
Thank you, Serge. Thank you, Troy. Great to be here.
Yeah, pleasure. Yeah, it's nice to see you, Serge, on the couch and not in bed with a robot, I must say.
Yeah, I prefer it as well.
Yeah. Hey, Nimo, so you're one of these guys for me that I've looked up to for a long time. Obviously, we've known each other, since... I think from when I first moved to New Zealand, when you were consulting in the consulting company days. And
I think we met when I was CTO of iPayroll.
Yeah, a long time though. And you're someone that I've looked up to for a long time because you're one of these people that has founded a lot of companies, had a lot of success, and done like lots of different things, like really interesting different pivots in terms of your product career, in terms of the things that you've done. And so I've been really keen to get you onto the podcast for a long time. And I thought we could start as a bit of a starter for 10 for the audience is that You're one of the few people that I know that have been through two global notorious Silicon Valley bosses in Jack Dorsey and then Elon Musk, right? And what I mean by that was a company that you were involved in, Reshuffle, that was acquired by Twitter. And can you talk me through, let's go back to that story. Can you talk us through that?
I was the VP engineering for a Silicon Valley startup called Reshuffle for a while, and I've set up a team here in New Zealand for them. We worked with Disney, we worked with Universal Studios, quite a few other customers. And then back at the start of 2020, Twitter were coming out with a new version of their API, and they needed somebody to run quite a few demos or use cases for the API, and they contracted us to do it. On the back of that, we were in the middle of figuring out whether we want to be acquired. There were a few offers on the table. Twitter came with an offer to acquire the team. Not so much the product. We had an integration platform service that we developed. They were less interested in that. They were more interested in the team and what the team could do.
So the classic acqui-hire type situation?
Yeah, definitely. So Twitter had a recipe for acqui-hire. They have a range of between 50 head at a time, between $50,000 and $500,000 per team member when they acqui-hire. And what they do, they put that on the table, and then they interview everybody in the team. And they said, okay, here are the people we want, here are the people we don't want. With us, there were 7 of us. They wanted all of us, and they came in at the highest. So they came out at $3.5 million for the entire team. And part of it goes to the company, part of it goes for retention. That doesn't matter so much. One day we were Reshuffle, we were renting an office from TourWriter, and the next day we were Twitter, and it was amazing.
And that was like at a crazy time for Twitter too, right? Because it was literally on the cusp of Jack selling the company to Elon, right?
No, it was a little bit before that. So we moved around April 2020, and then the whole Elon thing was around October 2022, so about a year and a half later. But Jack was already stepping down, gave the reins to Parag Agrawal.
Yeah.
And then Elon started, I think it started around April when he started making noises about purchasing Twitter, so that's April 2022. And by October, it was a done deal.
Yeah, wow. So Jack was obviously going off to do more Satoshi stuff, because obviously Jack's Satoshi, for everyone out there.
Everybody knows that. Yeah,
everybody knows that. That's actually my Halloween costume this year. I've got a Satoshi T-shirt, Jack's Satoshi T-shirt that I'm wearing, and I'm going as Jack to a Halloween party. But you've got a bit of an interesting story as well in the sort of blockchain space with Horizon State, which was another company that you founded.
Yeah. So back in 2017, I was CTO for iPayroll here in Wellington, and I was approached by a good friend of mine at the time, Oren Alazraki. He was running Datacom in Melbourne, and he said, I think you should talk to this guy, to Jamie Skeller, who's the original founder of Horizon State. So we got together. I was not into crypto at that time at all. I knew what it was. I didn't hold crypto. I was slightly interested, not really into the entire thing. And Jamie was insanely into crypto, and my vote, which is the godfather of Horizon State, they were into that too. And Jamie said, hey, we should do that. We should run voting on a blockchain. So I frantically tried to figure out what blockchain is and how I can develop software on top of it. So I got talking to Jamie Skeller, who was the original guy with the idea. Very, very amazing person. Really, you can listen to him talk, and he can convince you to do anything, and he convinced me. So joined up with him. We had a very tight time frame from July to October, because it had to match with my votes timeline around when they wanted to raise some money for their needs. So we needed to build a community, write a white paper, go through an ICO, go through a raise, get all the token mechanics done, all of that. We had some good people around us at the time. Everybody, was working sort of after work hours. I was still CTO at Taipei. Well, I gave my notice. I gave them 3 months notice at the time. And then in October, we went through, did the ICO, raised just over $1 million Australian dollars, and started running in earnest. We had a little office in Porirua. Mm-hmm. Oren left Datacom and came and joined us as a CEO. I was CTO. We were split between New Zealand, mainly Wellington, and Melbourne. Then later we added people in other places in Australia. We had a guy working for us in France and another one in Barcelona. So we were extremely global from day one.
Yeah, awesome. And when we say that you've had some success, so in 2018, Horizon State was actually selected by the World Economic Forum as one of the top 60 innovation companies in the world.
Yeah. So that's a crazy story because like every crypto startup, we had a community of, I guess it was around 2,000 people, like high watermark 2,000 people, but a few hundreds really active. And one of them said on the community, hey, you guys should apply for the World Economic Forum. They have a Global Pioneers Award. Like, okay, fine. So Oren, who was the CEO, he took that on board. He applied. They had multiple calls over weeks with him, and he convinced them with the vision and the technology. We ended up winning it, and we're still there on the World Economic Forum website if you look for the Global Pioneers of 2018.
Wow.
And what was Horizon State's mission? What were you trying to do in this either ICO or just generally as a business?
So the idea behind Horizon State was to provide a platform for secure and transparent voting. There were lots of stories back then and still now around how votes are not that secure or not that transparent. And who knows, you keep hearing stuff and, obviously...
Especially in America.
Yeah, you keep hearing stuff around, there's probably some fraud going on and envelopes go missing or there's too many envelopes or whatever. So we devised a system whereby you can get onto your phone or whatever, your computer, and vote through there. And of course, the important thing for us was storing those votes on the blockchain. So then it's tamper-proof. You can't go there and change vote that happened. Everybody can see all the votes. Everybody can tally the vote. And then as long as you trust the entire chain that got the vote onto the blockchain, you say, okay, fine, now I know what the results are. We got that sorted in terms of the delivery, in terms of the product. It was pretty hard trying to sell that thing. There's probably quite a few reasons for that. Blockchain startups, everything around crypto was a bit murky those days. Still, arguably still is a little bit for, I would say for adoption. But we did make some headways. We did have some customers. We ran a vote for the government of South Australia on a fishery working group, and that was an extremely complex vote. You could stack your votes, and we needed to calculate based on their algorithm exactly who wins, etc. And we needed to connect it to their system. So now you have an issue because their system was an identity system, and ours had to be anonymous. So how do you do that? And then our guy in France, Adrian Poupard, who used to work for me at iPayroll, he came up with how to do that, how to make sure that you're authenticated when you come into the system, but that your vote can't be mapped back to you. So we ran that. It was great. And then after that, we had a community work in Porirua. They were building quite a few new public housing. And they wanted to consult with the local people who were going either into the housing or are going to live around the housing. The way they did that is they had working groups and they had questions and they recorded the answers and then they brought it back to us to run it off the blockchain as well.
Do you think there's something that would ever happen in New Zealand, like that we'll be able to use technology to vote? Like we in Wellington here, we had our mayoral campaign just recently, and it was such a pain in the ass to have to vote for that.
Yeah, I think, look, to be honest, I think we're a bit far in New Zealand from voting like that. By the way, at Horizon State, we ran top voting for their own caucus as well. Yeah, so if top wins, we might get that.
Yeah.
I was a top member, actually. I participated in that vote.
All right.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Look at that, the user.
Yeah. It was funny, just weird to think that we can order a pizza online, ship some $3 thing from Temu online, and then the most basic civic responsibility duty, is paper-based or some ballot thing.
Well, especially when you think
technology's been around for nearly a decade now.
Yeah.
Especially when you think about where the voting that's not compulsory anyway, right? And so you're going to just actively get more voters by using technology like this. But this is not the podcast that we wanted to talk about today, politics. It was technology encompassing, right? And one thing you said earlier that I'm still thinking about is so Twitter, you talked about Twitter when they acquired Reshuffle, right? They go through a process where they have a 50,000 to 200,000 or 300,000, 500,000. What makes a 500,000 engineer or person? What was it, do you think, that gets that top dollar?
Yeah, so
asking for a friend.
I don't know if they do it now under Elon. Maybe it's more.
Yeah.
I think with every acquihire, I came to learn there's normally a pivot person in the team. So the pivot person is the one that an acquiring company really wants. In our case, it was Amir Shvat. He's a really good friend of mine. I met him back in the first startup I ever joined, and we were together. We had a few startups together before Reshuffle. And he's an excellent dev and product person, and I think Twitter really wanted him. And the rest of the team, because they saw our work and they saw our ability to run stuff quickly and to deliver stuff quickly. And I think specifically for the team that we went into, which was the API team, obviously they can't run too fast. Right? You can't move fast and break things in infrastructure, which is our problem in Propagator as well, which maybe we can get a little bit more into it later. But we were able to move fast and not break too much. And I think that's what they wanted. And then when they interviewed us, I think, first of all, we prepared well for the interviews, but they could see, because we worked with them for a bit before that, how fast we can give them what they need and stuff that they didn't know they need as well. So, we'd develop little things like mappers between V1 and V2 of the API and a playground for the API. And I had a demo where Donald Trump was reading his own tweets on Slack, so the Twitter API and Slack API and Whisper API. So it's all of those things, we go oh yeah, now we have a showcase for people to use that layer of Twitter, which not many people were using at the time. So I think that was the premise, right? How do we get a bunch of people who can run really, really fast and deliver things really, really quickly? Personally, for me, that has been my passion. That's what I always try to do with the teams I manage. How to find a way to run fast and deliver fast and execute fast, but sustainably. That's the important thing. Everybody can do a sprint. Everybody can do 4 or 5 sprints. But how do you do that, week after week after week after week after week, and still, not burn out?
How do you do it then? How do you, what insight can you provide on how they can do that?
There's a few things with speed. One, extremely important is clarity. And that's, that sort of leans into what a leader should do, whether it's a CTO or a CEO, it doesn't matter. You have to have clarity. You have to have the event horizon, where you're going to. Yeah. Right? If I can see far and I know where I'm going, then I can control the speed because I know where I'm going. I don't need to stop. If I don't have that clarity, so speed without clarity is noise. Right? Where are you going? What are you actually doing? You're just creating friction and sparks flying, but nothing actually happens. That's the first thing. You need to know where you're going. What are you actually trying to achieve? The second thing is you need to know what you can control and what you can't control. Right? Control everything that you can. And the things that you can control are how you feel, how you do your day, how you treat the people on your team, how you treat your customers. The things you can control are competition, regulation, customers having a bad day or a bad year or whatever, all of those things, right? But you know, if you stop and think about it for a second, you know what you can control and what you can't control. Keep everything that you can control, keep it controlled really, really well, and prepare for everything else. So don't be surprised, don't get panicked. Everything will be fine as long as you have a framework of how you deal with unexpected. And you'll always have unexpected stuff happen. So just find the focus and just go with it.
Awesome.
You mentioned the pivot player. I can't remember exactly how you referred to that. What are the attributes of someone who is that pivot point for a team, a software team?
I guess it depends on who's doing the acquihire. So when we were acquihired at Reshuffle, there were more than one player. So there were Twitter and there were two others. And for each of the others, there was a different pivot player. So for Twitter, it was Amir because they needed somebody to run a huge product on top of the API. And he was, perfect for that. He used to do a lot of work at Slack and Twitch and Google and Microsoft. So like perfectly positioned. For one of the others, I was the pivotal because, I was a VP engineering, very experienced, and they needed to run something and build the software. And then for another, it was Avner, who was the CEO of Reshuffle at the time, because of his background in very hard computing. So the pivot is, what are you actually acquiring here? What do you want? And that's so it's not specifically on the team. It's for where you're going.
Makes sense.
Yeah, interesting. One thing I'm curious to know, Nimo, is like when you went to Twitter, what was something that surprised you about working at that type of company?
I guess I can say that. So I have never worked at a very large enterprise before. I worked at Datacom, which is large for New Zealand, but it's not a huge enterprise. And I worked in the army, which is huge, but it's not an actual enterprise in terms of software delivery. And Twitter was an American enterprise. They had people doing jobs that I didn't know existed. We spent a week training on everything you can think of. They're like huge number of hours of videos to watch around everything that it is to be in an American corporate back in 2020, 2021. And then the amounts of process that was insane to me. When we joined, remember early 2021, COVID was still rampant, and we were all supposed to move to Boulder, to Colorado, to that office over there, but we got an exemption because of COVID. So they said, okay, start in Wellington, and once COVID is over, we'll figure this out, and that never happened because by the time COVID was sort of over enough to consider a move, we were already working. It all worked well.
Yeah. So
that was fine. But incidentally, what that meant is that they kept us as a team. Because otherwise, you have 4 people here in New Zealand, each one on a separate team, and we are 5 hours behind, or 19 ahead, whichever way you want to look at it, which wouldn't have worked. But because we were a team, then it didn't matter that we only had a few hours a day to overlapping with our main Twitter counterparts. And we got to work together. And because we got to work together, and I was the engineering manager for the team, we got to do not whatever we wanted, but we didn't have dependencies. And that was very important for us because we were able to keep on moving fast, keep on delivering things quickly, and iterate very, very quickly, inside our little office, which we still had a two-writer. So that worked well for us. And I guess I didn't have the entire deep Twitter/American experience. Yeah.
Were you surprised by the quality or lack of quality of engineering across the board at Twitter?
There were some engineers there that blew my mind. And I expected it, and it still blew my mind. And there were some other engineers that were good, but not what I expected. I mean, I guess with every large company, you have different types of engineers, different types of not only engineers, product people, and et cetera, et cetera. And some of them were extremely good, and I think a lot of them stayed. Like a lot of them survived the Elon cull.
Yeah.
Was there a cultural, I guess, beyond the talent question, was there any sort of cultural observations of yours at the time? Either, again, back to Troy's question, that surprised you?
Yeah, that's a good question. Department that we went into, which was the API, most of them came from another acquisition that Twitter made a few years back, which was called NIP. So they did a Twitter API, and they were very, very close together. I think one of the things that surprised me, even though I knew that in the large tech companies, they have those names for themselves, like the Amazon, the Amazonians, and the Zoomies in Zoom, and what do they call them? Googlers, I think, at Google. I knew that, and I knew that Twitter had TWIPs, which sounds awful. But I wasn't ready for how much of a team spirit they have. Because, you don't think like large companies would have it, but they had it. They loved each other. They loved working with each other. You could see it on the whole, right? Obviously, not everybody, but that surprised me a lot. That I did not expect that at all.
Was it, did it go past the uneasy boundary to kind of almost a cult, or was it sort of a healthy amount of team collaboration?
Well, I wasn't exposed to everything. I guess there was probably some cult-ish behavior, but I didn't get that impression talking to them. Like, obviously, right, we weren't there, so you don't get the entire experience. And even there was like 2 days of workshop where I was supposed to go there, but COVID, so I joined at like 4:30 in the morning in New Zealand for those 2 days, and it was great. You could see people. One of the things that really impressed me with Twitter is how committed everyone was to what they thought Twitter should be, which was like the town square of the internet.
Yeah.
We can talk for ages about did they implement it correctly, what were the safety mechanisms, etc., but they were all extremely committed to delivering, and that was great to see.
And RIP Twitter, it was one of my favorite tools for a long time for that, to learn, to research, to vent opinions, to think, to collaborate, to challenge things and to learn from it. And so I'm really disappointed that Twitter's not around anymore.
It is a travesty, really.
It was like where I met everyone that I learned so much from.
I actually hardly used Twitter before I joined. I had an account, and during Horizon State, we used Twitter a lot. But then we also had to delete a lot of tweets and a lot of replies because everything we did, lawyers were going through it because we wanted to list on exchanges. So there was always lawyers. And then the token mechanism, is it a security? And that's where you have to make sure that you don't say anything that is even close to being a security. And the easiest way is just to delete everything. Yeah. And to this day, like I hardly ever tweet, and even if I do, like I'll delete it the next day, just because, at some point somebody is going to go through my feed. Yeah. And I might as well just delete it now. I know it's all there, like it's not really deleted, but not exposed.
Good life advice for you and I, Troy, I suspect.
You also recently
it's a service I provide.
Post deletes is what Serge needs. I just need verbal diarrhea deletes. Nimo, like you're one of these guys that takes on some pretty hard challenges. Like if you were to look back at your career, some of the things that you founded and done, like you've done. I mean, you founded a company years ago which ended up being acquired by Story Park, or like bolted into Story Park. So like early childhood education, you've tried to revolutionise how people vote. You've gone deep into the like sort of SRE tech, dev relations world. You're now trying to take on the healthcare industry with Propagator, and so I'm really keen to like go deep onto like what Propagator is and where that came from. And so I guess for people that have not heard of Propagator, like I think we did a shout out for you guys a while back on the startup under the spotlight. But what is Propagator?
Okay, I'll start with the origin story because why not? So I was sitting at Wellington Hospital with my daughter, and she had an eye exam. It just so happened that she had a theatre play at school the same day. Because of course you don't know that, because those appointments, they're scheduled 6 months in advance. So I rang the hospital and say, can we do the appointment a day earlier or a day later or 2 hours earlier on the day? Anything. I'll take anything. I'll come here at 7. And like, no, we can't do that. can you get me in touch with one of the people who has an appointment throughout the day to see if they will swap with me? No, we can't do that. Ended up going to the hospital earlier, trying to swap with people in the waiting room. We made it to the theater show. That was okay. And I thought, like, I really want to be able to do that. Like, I really want to be able to reschedule my appointment without needing to talk to the receptionist who has 100 other things to do. And I'm sure that if she had time, she would try and help me. She doesn't have the time. So I came up with the idea, and I talked to Fabian Cook, who's our CTO at Propagator, and said, I wish we could do that. And he said, yeah, we probably could, as you do when you're an 100x engineer. Mm-hmm. So we did it. We developed Reschedule, which is a system where you get an appointment, you get a link, and you can use that link to reschedule your appointment. So you click the link, you say, I have an appointment at 9 a.m. Monday morning. Can't make it. I'll switch it for any time after 12 on Monday or any time between 9 and 10 on Tuesday. We send messages to everybody who has appointments with that provider, so with the GP or the specialist, during those time windows that you designated. And the first one to say, yeah, I'll swap. We swap the appointments. You don't need to talk to the clinic, to the reception, anything. We do it directly in the practice management system, and that worked. But after that, we said, there's actually probably a much larger issue, much larger problem here, because we try to connect all of the practice management systems, and it's hard. Mm-hmm. And I said, okay, so everybody.
Why is it hard for people that are listening? Like, because, I mean, is it just the legacy technology that is in the healthcare industry?
No, not just. So there's a few layers here. Like every good onion, there's a few layers. Mm-hmm. So one layer is the technology. It's not always modern, but most of the practice management systems do have some sort of an API. Most of those APIs are quite good, for what you need to do. But when you develop a startup in health tech, so say you're developing an AI-based receptionist or a scribe that mm-hmm. listens into your appointment, takes notes, and writes them into the practice management system, you need, off the bat, you need to try and integrate with at least 6 or 7 different systems used by clinics. And it takes time. And there's the systems themselves, they need to protect their data, because you as a patient, you want your data protected. You don't want anybody to be able to get the data, to read it. You don't know what they do. So, you need to jump through quite a lot of hoops to be able to do that. And then there's competition between the systems. There's some politics between some of the systems. There's some of the practice management system, they charge you for using their API. So right off the bat, your pricing is wrong, because mm-hmm. you didn't realize that you're going to give 30% of what you get to that practice management system for their customers. So there's quite a few things there that you go, that's just too hard. Mm-hmm. So we said, okay, there's a swamp, right, of unhappiness, and I'm Shrek. So if I see a swamp, I jump right in. So let's try and fix it. So what we do now is we try to figure out how to make all of the health systems connect to each other, because what we really want, right, is we want connected care. You don't want to ever walk between the hospital and your GP with a piece of paper, mm-hmm. for example. It doesn't happen a lot, but it still happens from time to time. You don't want to carry a prescription to your pharmacy. You only want to enter your details once, really, as a patient, from your perspective. And from all of the providers' perspective, they want things to flow. They want things to work well. From the vendor's perspective, from the startup perspective, you want to be able to connect to those practice management systems, to those specialist systems, to radiology, to devices. And you want to be able to interact with them, get data. If you're, for example, Manage My Health, which is the most common portal in New Zealand, mm-hmm. if you're there and you have a Garmin watch like myself, maybe you'd like to see your Garmin results over time. Maybe I would like to provide it to you, but it's hard because now I need to connect to Garmin, I need to connect to Manage My Health, I need to connect to whatever patient management system Manage My Health is covering for. And that's that's a lot of work for a startup and for somebody to go like, oh yeah, I'm going to bet on that. So one of the things we do is we make all of that easier. We democratize access. So we would work on the startup's behalf with the vendors of the practice management systems, because we broker trust this way. We would create the various endpoints on the various workflows that you need in order to make sure that you don't create harm in the data. We will make sure that both our platform and everybody on the supply chain has the right certificates, if be it ISO or HIPAA or SOC 2 or whatever, to make sure that the supply chain itself isn't contaminated. So that's what we do, right? And then so you take that. We have what we call a unified API, where it's a single API that vendors can use to interact inside the health system. We have a workflow engine. We have a very sophisticated data migration engine that lets you migrate between systems if you need to. Some of our clients, some of our larger clients, they would have systems that they pay millions of dollars in yearly licenses for, right? And they don't even use those systems anymore, but they have to keep them because they have data that the data has to be kept for 10 years. Mm-hmm. So imagine if you can take the data out of there, store it somewhere else where it's still accessible, and then you stop paying all of the license fees you pay over here. That's a huge saving, for everybody here. So that's one of the things we do as well.
Interesting. Why hasn't anyone done that before?
I think a lot of companies try. There's a lot of companies who do parts of what we do and do it really well. So you have Rhapsody, for example, that they were Orion Health, they were sold, they do it really well. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of MuleSoft around New Zealand, which is very expensive, but very good.
So, because Salesforce is right, has had a lot of leaks recently, security leaks, MuleSoft being a Salesforce product. Is that something, that, especially in the health industry, information that you don't want leaked, like surgeons blue pills, STDs, he doesn't want that getting out into the market.
I work off the assumption that every service that we use has security leaks, right? Yeah. And that maybe goes back to what we talked about, control what you can't control and be prepared for the things that you can't. Yeah. One of the things we do at Propagator is we don't hold data at all. We just transfer data between systems. Even the capabilities we provide around data storage, what you do is you bring your own storage to Propagator, and we store it on your AWS or Azure or whatever you want. Everybody's going to have data breaches and data leaks. It's the nature of the internet and the nature of the speed that attackers can move.
Where could you take your business? Obviously, healthcare is a massive industry, probably the world's largest sector. But as you're saying, you're not holding the data, you're not the system of record. Where could you take your business? Where could Propagator go in the long term?
I think we started with health because it's the hardest. I said, start with the hardest. Everything else becomes easy later.
You start with the swamp and then dry land is pretty easy thereafter.
There is my origin story here. So my very earliest memories, I think I was about 4. It was Saturday morning, winter. I was the only one awake. I think, I was 4, so I was the only kid at the time as well. Woke up, put my cowboy costume on, took my bike and just went for a ride. And I grew up on a commune, really. So we had cows. And the cows, not like in New Zealand where we grow them in the field, they were in a concrete shed or whatever you call it. And then there's affluent from there, and it just goes into a very large pool in the ground, and that wasn't fenced or anything.
Oh wow!
I think I know where this is going. Slumdog Millionaire.
Yeah. So that was me. So I don't remember going into that.
So for anyone listening at home right now, Nimo's headfirst in a cowboy costume on his bike in a pile of shit in a hole somewhere. Yeah. Just to paint that picture.
Yeah. I was
perfect
a cute
startup
cowboy.
origin story.
Yeah. So, but I don't actually remember that. I remember I couldn't get my bike out, So I turned around and I walked back to my parents' house. Like, imagine that, 7:30 in the morning, winter day. I walk, and it's far. I'm far, and it was like a kilometer, because of course I rode my bike around. So I'm walking through that commune, and I'm bawling my eyes out. That's what I remember. And then one of the old guys, he was probably like 60, right? But it was old. So he looks at me, and I don't know how he stood the smell. And he goes, "Oh, these are your parents, right? Yeah, come, I'll take you home." So he took me home. And then my dad hosed me outside, as you do. So my origin story, like, I started my life surrounded by bullshit.
Welcome. There's a safe space for you here.
Yeah, and then, after that, I went back with my dad to get a bike, and he measured how deep I went in, and apparently like one step forward and we wouldn't be sitting here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was up to my neck, literally. Yeah. Yeah,
Shit,
so
that
was great. Now, I'm not sure how why I said
we got there, but that was a good story.
Because you said,
but you started, you're starting with healthcare. It's the hardest sector for reasons you've already explained. Where does Propagator go from here?
Healthcare is the hardest. Propagator, the technology is not health specific. Mm-hmm. Like what we do, the ability to connect to new systems quickly, to create workflows, to do very intelligent on-the-fly data mapping, data migration, all of that is, lift and shift and do agri-tech, lift and shift and do fintech. It doesn't matter. So I think that there's two main paths here, right? One is we try to replicate that in different sectors. And the other is we go all in on health, which is probably what we're going to do in the short term. And in my non-existent investor deck, the first slide is, in 2 years, every health transaction will go through Propagator, because that's what we want to do. We want to be there for every health transaction.
That's a pretty good first line on an investor deck.
I have no second slide.
We'll take it. That's really super interesting, right? But I, like, firsthand, I've seen Andy, who is one of your co-founders, works out of our office, and I'm constantly hearing about things that are like happening in closing deals and likes, and it's phenomenal, right? It's like you guys are doing really well.
When you invited me to come on the podcast, thank you both. I was thinking, what do I want to talk about? And one of the things I want to talk about is how do you manage a little company where everybody is a founder? Andy is a founder. I'm a founder. Fabian is a founder. Craig, even though he joined late, is a founder as well. Yeah. So how do you do that? How do you split the responsibilities? Who does what? And I think the answer here is, as a CEO, right, you have to make sure that everybody leans into their best performance and can do the best that they can, and take away anything else from them. Not as in, you're not worthy, but take away, absorb it on yourself as a CEO, and make sure that they can do what they need. So if Fabian needs to work and he needs his quiet in between 11 p.m. and 1 a.m., I am there, because when he works, he sometimes needs to say, "Hey, I did that," and he needs somebody to say, "Oh, yeah, that's great," or "Have you thought about this thing?" And if Andy, his best feature, he's a wizard in getting in front of people, in opening doors, in making people want to talk to him, because he's so great at opening up, which is something I can never do. We just came back from two days in Auckland, which was, meeting after meeting after meeting. And when I told him on the plane back, I am drained. Meeting new people drains me, because it's not my comfort zone at all. Well, Andy, he's like a flower opening up to the sun. Like, he tells stories, and he's brilliant at getting people to want to work with him. And this is why, he works in your office, and you hear about it, because he's there and he's telling you stuff. So I think we sort of have a dynamic between Andy and myself, where Andy will open doors. He will reach out to people and say, "Hey, we're Propagator, let's talk." Lays out the plan, lays out what we can do for them. And then he sort of provides me with this banquet of stuff that I can do, and I come in and I'll close the deal. So most of the time, it's not always. Sometimes Andy closes, sometimes I open, but most of the time that's our dynamic. So he will open up and I will close the deal.
But that's a really interesting talking point, right? Because I was talking about this the other day. Someone met Dan, my business partner, for the first time, and they called me afterwards and they said, he's the polar opposite of you, like the polar opposite. And I was like, yeah, that's why it works so well, because when I can't do something, Dan steps in, or when Dan can't do something, I step in. And I think that's when people are choosing co-founders, they often choose people that are exactly the same as them. And in your case, you talk about it where Andy has a skill set that you can't do necessarily, but then you have skill sets that obviously he can't do. I think it's such a powerful tool.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, this is my second startup with Andy, because Andy joined as a late co-founder to Horizon 8. He bought Jamie out. So we've been through the ringer on that, and we still like each other, so that's fine. And then in between we had another company, we call it A-Team as a Service. So Andy was working at 8Wire, which is part of the English family office, and I met both Sir Bill and his CEO at a dinner for 8Wire, and his CEO said, "Hey, will you do some work for me in the English family office group of companies?" And I did. And then one of those companies needed quite a bit more than what I can do, by myself. So I needed to bring more people in. So Andy and I started this company. We called it Possible, and we ran that together as well. So now we've done quite a bit together. So we're friends. It's not just we have complementary skill set.
Yeah, of course.
But I think maybe we're friends because we have the complementary skill set. Maybe he sees in me what is hard for him, and I see in him what's hard for me, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's a perfect person for me. Generally, as a CEO, I think you need to be able to do everything that the other people in the exec team does. So I have to be able to do sales, even though I don't like it, even though I'm bad at it. I have to be able to do it. I have to do marketing. You see me. We've been friends for a while, and I never ever posted on LinkedIn until we got to Propagator, or maybe I had one post, but I make myself do that because it's part of my job as a CEO to do that as well. I am not the best developer on the team. I'm probably the third developer on the team.
You got Fabian though. You don't need any more.
Fabian, Craig, then me, then Andy. Maybe Andy is a better developer than me. I don't know. he's a vibe coding, but I do development, right? And then a few of the clients, I do the delivery for them because Fabian and Craig are doing other things.
Why did you want to be the CEO this time around, Nimo?
I didn't. I'm an accidental CEO. I've always been an accidental CEO. It's not my comfort zone. I'm waiting for Propagator to grow enough for some VCs to put money in and move me aside.
Would that be the trigger? Just the money to go and hire someone else who wants to be CEO? And if that's the case, what job would you want?
Now, when you get to a certain size, right, different people are good for different sizes of companies. Right? I don't have the right experience to make this a 100-people company if we ever need. I don't think we need, but I don't have the right experience. And I know that. And currently, I feel like I'm doing okay. Mm-hmm. A lot of people will do better. I feel like I'm doing okay. If I feel like I can't do it anymore, if I'm not the right person, I will step aside. That's it. My first duty as a CEO is to know when to stop.
Mm. That's a good trait to have. We're seeing that quite common in New Zealand now. A lot of CEOs are relinquishing that title a lot sooner than our predecessors have, and I think that's because they're seeing the benefits of that.
What job would you want, though?
Oh, I'll do it all over again.
No, but if you're going to start Propagator, though, and you hire Bob as CEO or Joanne, what job would you want in the company?
Oh, I don't think I'll have another job in the company. I think if...
Go back to 0 to 1
Go back to 0 to 1, do something else,
Is there anything that's different in your mind about a 0 to 1 person, professional, versus the next stage? What are the most pronounced differences in that?
I think 0 to 1, and this is also something I look for with everybody I hire. I think the most important thing is the clarity around your purpose, or I call it, for myself, I call it duty, but purpose, and the choices you make. All right, like, how far will you go? That's the most important thing for me. You need to know how far you're willing to go, and then commit to it, to yourself, right? And then I want to find that in the people I work with. I want to work with adults, people who don't need hand-holding. You can scream, you can cry, you can fight, everything, but do it as an adult, please.
What's the definition of an adult in that context?
That you can do it, you can disagree, you can fight, you can vent, you can talk to me about how frustrating the customer is, but get a grip on yourself and carry on and doing it. And you don't need me to constantly coddle you and say, hey, that's not how we behave, right? When I don't do that. I don't believe a company is a family. I like to keep my family and my work life separate. And I have kids. I don't need kids in my company. That's a different kind.
This comes back to the cult thing that we talked about earlier, right? With Twitter, may or may not have cultish tendencies is the word I was looking for. And I think that's because like there is a uniqueness in people that do 0 to 1 that don't subscribe to the need of the jazz hands of culture that is company, and they get their best work done when they're in an environment where they can be challenged, where it's a little bit abrasive and it's super growth. And then when it gets to a period where a company does need to bring some jazz hands in, aka HR and committee groups and policies and Taco Tuesdays and all these things, a lot of people, the 0 to 1 people really phase out, and you lose really good talent, at that stage.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to all of that. I think, generally speaking, I see it a lot in devs, but I think it's true for a lot of professions. By and large, you have a separation between pioneers and settlers, right? You have your pioneer devs. They will go and do it. They will do it in a weekend. Right, and then it's going to be rough around the edges. It's not going to cover all of the use cases, and all of the edge cases might not be very secure, but it will work, and it will work well. And then you have the settlers, and the settlers come in, and they're not the 0 to 1 people. They are the 1 to 10 people, and they make it enterprise level, right? And we as users, we want enterprise level software, but the whole point around speed and delivery and execution, that goes into that as well. Settlers take that rough around the edges thing that the pioneers build, and make it something that you can sell, that you can rely on, that you can grow, that is sustainable. And I like working with pioneers. I like, it's just the people that I enjoy working with. And pioneers are attracted to 0 to 1 because it's chaos, and chaos is great. I don't think I'm a pioneer myself. I can develop code relatively quickly, but I'm no match to some of the people that I work with, and I don't need to. I haven't been a full-time dev for a while. It's not my job. My job is to run the devs team, to make sure that things move, and that you pay the price in being less technical.
I think one of the advantages of your experience is being comfortable saying, I want to be surrounded with the pioneers, and I want to be. The pioneering experience is the thing that gives you joy. Yeah. It's okay to say, settlers are required, but that's not the thing you want to do.
No, it's not the thing I want. I still want to deliver great software. So I know I need settlers. And some pioneers can be settlers under some circumstances, and it's fine. But I really enjoy the 0 to 1. And that's why I'm saying, if I ever move away from the CEO at Propagator, I'll probably start something else.
But I do think the bicycle, driving it on your own and start early in the morning into a pile of shit is perfect pioneering activity.
I'm so surrounded by cyclists lately, it's insane.
Nimo, I'm interested, like we talk about Fabian being 100 times engineer, and you've seen like people at Twitter that you mentioned that blew your mind. You've worked in different countries, you've worked with lots of different engineers. What, in your view, makes 100 times engineer?
It's an excellent question. And the reason it's excellent is because I've never thought about it. It's a title I give people.
Well, just what? Yeah. So I guess like I could define that, and make it a little bit easy for the answer, right? Like you say, like you just mentioned before, right? So you decide, all right, we're bringing a CEO. Serge is now running Propagator. It's on its path to bankruptcy, obviously, because of that. Sadly, he gets acqui-hired out to another company. It's saved. All of a sudden, it's now sold for $1 billion. Yeah. You're going back to 0 to 1. What are you looking for in that initial team? Like, what's the 100 times engineer?
I'm not looking for 100 times engineer for the initial team. These people are extremely rare. I'm very lucky to know Fabian and some others who are on the same level. I'm not necessarily looking for these people. I'm looking, like I said, I'm looking for grit. I'm looking for people who I know will go all the way. I'm looking for people like me who had a lot of stuff happen to them in the past. And I think when you've been through quite a lot of bad and difficult times, the next challenge is just a challenge. It's not, you don't break down. And so I'm looking for people like that. I'm looking for people I would love to work with 12, 14 hours a day, day in, day out. And they may be excellent engineers. They may be people with excellent personality. They may be people who challenge me every step of the way. I especially actually look for people who challenge me every step of the way. If I run a company and everybody is just, let's do that, because that's what Nimo said, that's, what am I doing here? I can just run it myself. I don't learn anything. I don't develop as a person. Whereas if I find people who go like, have you thought about, A, B, C, and D before you open your big mouth and talk to customers? Like, yes.
I wholeheartedly agree. A team of yes men for me is a redundant team, and so that's that challenge in that early stage working with those people is fantastic. What differences? I'm conscious we're sort of getting to the end of the podcast, and I've got one more question just because I keep thinking this. Like, what are the differences between Kiwi engineers and global engineers in your point of view?
Wow, I don't think there's a huge difference. But I think the good engineers that I worked with in the US, in France, in Israel, are by and large much better than the good engineers I worked with in New Zealand.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. It might be that we are a relatively young country in terms of the tech. It might be that our schools are not good. I don't actually know. Or it might be that I worked in places where don't attract the best Kiwi engineers. That's perfectly possible. But I have met some excellent Kiwi engineers, just not worked with a lot of them to have an opinion. What I do like about most of the Kiwi engineers I worked with is the ability to say, yeah, that's what's important, and that's what I'm going to focus my entire time on until I get it done. And that a lot of us here in New Zealand are like that. Even though we have that thing about work-life balance, what we call the walla bala. No, a lot of people will work hours and hours and hours until they get things done, and that. I mean, you can't take that for granted.
Serge and I talk about this all the time. There's just that hyper-focused mentality of like that trait. You cannot buy that trait. No. And when you find people that have that hyper-focus, you just wrap your arms around them.
And also I think another thing is, and that's the number 8 wire mentality, right? We don't whine about tools or not having tools. And Fabian is working on an old MacBook, and, he would love to get a new one. I would like to get a new one. But, we don't currently have money to spend on that, so it will happen. And when it happens, we'll be happy, but we're not going to whine about it.
Yeah.
We just make do with what we have.
Interesting. All right, we're into the rapid fire series of questions, which means we come to the end here. So I've got a list of questions that I prepared. Serge is going to just drop bombs like he normally does, right? And so be prepared for that. So first one I want to get into is, what's your favorite tool and why?
I have a love-hate relationship with Slack and with Jira as well. I have Nimo's second rule is that every engineering team is going to try every other project management software out there, and within about 6 months, they go to Jira.
Mm-hmm. And it's just because there's nothing better yet.
Nothing really beats it, I think.
Yeah, interesting. Serge, you got anything?
Yeah, like if you weren't a software engineer, if you're in a totally different function, what would you want to have been?
My first job was a landscaper and then a mechanic. And then when I first moved to New Zealand, I was a willing worker on organic farms.
All right.
Yeah.
So out of those 3?
I think farming was when I was the happiest.
Yeah,
do you know why?
Because he had on his face and he was riding his bike. And
Yeah, I feel like Troy nailed it. No, because it's fun. It's out. I mean, it helped that it was in a Coromandel, which is a great part of the country. It's fun and it's nice. Maybe I'll do it for 6 months and I'll hate it, but for now, I think that I kind of like it.
Build versus buy for a compliance critical capability?
Buy every single time.
Yeah. Any in particular that you?
No, so our only touch with compliance is actually the compliance framework itself, which we're buying. Like Propagator is the third company I'm running through ISO. So definitely buy the service.
There's a really good company, Vanta, that sponsors our show
Heard of
too,
them.
which we
They're
talk
awesome.
about. What's the most underrated move to earn institutional trust fast?
Go there and offer to help. No string is attached.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, I don't know why that's even a challenge for people, like offering to help without having to sort it out how you're going to get compensated or rewarded or recognised. Like there is, there's an obvious formula for building trust.
I sometimes offer to help, and I said, look, you don't even have to pay me. Just it's broken. Let me help you fix it. And then people end up paying me anyway. So that's fine.
Yeah. What's one metric that you track as a CEO?
I don't track metrics. I don't believe in metrics at all.
Don't believe in
Why
it?
not? Tell us.
I have never seen anything positive come out of metrics. Maybe I'm doing it wrong. Maybe everywhere I was is doing it wrong. I've just never seen it as adding any value. Like you end up, your metric ends up being the thing that you strive for. Like who cares? Who cares how many tickets we finish a week? Right? Are the customers happy? Is that something you can measure? I can't measure if customers are happy. I mean, it's retention really.
Totally random question for me. In the 10-year horizon, what do you think will be the biggest change in healthcare, the industry that Propagator is in?
AI. Regardless of Propagator, AI is making huge inroads into healthcare.
And what
everywhere.
will the biggest change I'll see in 10 years?
You will see a lot less of your GP, a lot more smart devices taking measurements, analyzing, prescribing, everything. I think the technology and the smarts is already there, but it's very hard to let go in health because if you get it wrong, it's horrible. So that's going to be the main issue, not the technology.
I'm developing this little machine that you can just prick your finger on, and you'll get a bit of blood. And
Perfect. And you can go. Have you given a name by any chance?
Thanos.
We are working with a company in Melbourne who does that.
Oh, wow.
So it's a single finger prick, and you can also pee in a cup if you like.
Yeah.
And they do like hundreds of blood tests within 20 minutes.
I wondered,
It's
because
insane.
Thanos was obviously onto something, and so I wondered how many people were going to follow her and just like do something in that space, but do it honestly.
It was a great idea, just fraudulently executed.
Yeah.
Execution is key. Yeah.
100%. What's one lesson that you've had to learn the hard way, Nimo?
Communication and clarity in communication. So I joined iPayroll. They were looking for a development manager, and I said, how about we make it a CTO? Mm-hmm. So I did that, got that. And then the founder of iPayroll, Martin Gleason, he's a brilliant person, but he's not a techie. And I had to explain, and he would not let me get away with hand waving and using jargon or whatever. Like, if he didn't understand something 100%, he would make sure I nail it down for him. And that was a huge lesson for me. Like, when you're surrounded by tech people, you sort of skip stuff. But when you need to communicate upwards, you have to make sure you're clear. You have to make sure your communication is on point. And especially, with people who are the founders of the business, you're working at their business. The accountability is insane. But that was great. Like, I still think of Martin as one of the best bosses I ever had.
Awesome.
My last one. What piece of advice do you wish you might have given to the 4-year-old version of you on the way home with the older man that had stuck? Unrelated to landing in cow shit, but more about what's the single piece of advice you wish you'd retained?
Don't wear your best cowboy costume, obviously. Clearly.
And if you wear a cowboy costume, expect to beat cows. What advice? I think many times in my life I haven't done things quickly enough. I sort of waited. And I shouldn't. I moved to New Zealand too late, even though I knew I already wanted to. I did a first startup a little bit too late. I had children a little bit too late. I'm not spending time, awake thinking about it, but just do stuff earlier. Then nothing bad is going to happen.
No,
Great
indeed.
advice.
And then what drives you now, Nimo?
So I mentioned before, right? I'm looking for people that know their purpose, or what I call the duty. Like, so what drives me now is the duty, and I think my duty is to fix stuff. So whenever I see things that I think I can help fix, that I just go there. And I'm not saying the health system is broken, or some of the companies that I advise to are broken. It's just like there are things that we can do better, and that I feel like this is my duty and this is my choice to do, and that's what drives me. Yeah.
Excellent. Hey, mate, well, thank you so much for coming on. It's been a really interesting conversation.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, it's remarkable to get people that have had so much experience in their career with different products, founding companies, working for companies, successes, failures, and that's what this podcast is all about, is sharing these stories. And so thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story, Nimo.
Yeah, really appreciate it, Nimo. Thanks for being here.
Thank you both. It was a pleasure.
Yeah, awesome.
And Jono, thank you too.
Yeah, and just be careful on your way out, because there is a massive hole in the ground just outside. And so
I'm never living you down, right?
Nah, that story's I'm guarding that story forever.
That's absolutely fine.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, everyone. Yeah, let's kick into it. I told you that was going to be a really interesting episode. It's people like Nimo that I really want to help tell their stories. It's the people that are out here grinding, doing these amazing things that are unheard of in New Zealand, or not as well known, I should say, that have so much advice that they can give because they're in the trenches, they're doing it right now, and they're going through the same things that we're all going through while we build our startups. And so I hope you enjoyed that episode as much as I enjoyed listening to that and being involved in that conversation with me, Serge, and Nimo. Yeah, I'm really excited about where Propagator goes. I think it's an industry that's like the health industry, just has to be disrupted. It's such horrible old legacy technology, and what they've been able to do and what he talked about there is really interesting. So YouTube, this is the time where I say thank you so much for watching. And I ask you right now to go down, and you're watching where my fingers go, hit here for like and subscribe, hit here to watch the next video, and just keep yourself in the startup theatre world for as long as you can, because we love you for watching. So thank you so much. Jump down and give us a quick subscribe. Share this with someone else. Send it to someone else that needs to hear this episode. Nimo is a phenomenal guy, and I think it's worthy of a subscription. Thank you.